wondered about that.
Okay. Do you hate that big pause I put in the middle?
No.
Okay. It sounds more natural.
Can we just like ooh the alto?
She said she did.
Yeah.
the same
The part where, wait,
words,
look at this.
but
I've
then-
heard of the Millie's
Yeah.
dinner.
Okay, let's do verse 2. Ready?
Yes.
And. When I was sinking down, sinking down, sinking down. When I was sinking down, sinking down. 1, 2, 3. When I was sinking down, beneath my sorrows drowned. My soul, friends together round, my soul. Okay, I won't do that. All right, we know it. Okay, good. Let's go TV.
I like this one though. Oh, I think that's a great.
Well, no wonder you.
Yeah, but maybe we can stop now.
You have to put all the words. You have to say, oh my God.
Now, it's not me. I'm but we have to fix on the brain though. I don't want to do it.
You're actually thinking you might be cold. You know, I didn't know. They have to do I think the congregation should be set up.
All of the I went to Richmond last week.
Stole's on black side.
You would.
I missed out on what
You're the one who says
versus.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Stole's on George.
Yeah.
I would leave my house.
It's going to be on the black
For
side.
normal, that's not, we need to shift that up first. Yeah, but then we have to push it.
Yeah.
So Tuesday was 8:20 and then add an extra.
Does anybody else need an order of service?
Okay.
We all need an
Stole's
order
of
of
choice.
service.
It doesn't make any
Hey, Martha,
difference.
we're supposed to be black. Martha,
Yes, ma'am.
lay a glue on you.
My house at 2 o'clock. Erica's.
I'll put it on your chair, Betsy. That's Betsy.
Yeah,
right?
it's supposedly take,
Yes.
it's supposedly take.
But that would be way too much. That's crazy. From Erica, Blue Books and all, probably, yeah, that's 15, so that's.
Said about
So
15,
why don't
20.
you pick her up, see if that's okay to pick her up at 2:30?
We're using
No, I
the
don't
good
know.
Leave it
ones.
wait.
That would
Okay. She's also used to going
be.
there.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you.
Oh, maybe
You go whenever you want.
down by the riverside.
Yeah, down by
Because
the
I
riverside.
tend to not worry about
Okay,
that.
I'm gonna tell
You just ask my husband, because he would be like that.
10:46. Shall we gather?
If we pick her up.
Oh my God. That's a half hour. Absolutely. She lives right over on Peters Creek, right?
No, not.
Right off.
And one,
So she said, how,
four.
what did she say about how much?
She said she didn't want
Say
to.
That's what I.
We probably should ask.
Doesn't seem like it should be 20 minutes, but that's okay.
Did she really say on shall we gather?
Carry.
1, 2, 4.
Down by the
I
riverside.
don't think she even, she didn't even do that. did she?
Shall we gather at the river?
Yeah.
1, 2, 4.
1, 2, 4.
One of those red trends.
One of those.
1, 2, 4.
1, 2, 4. Thank you.
Yes, I would pick her up. But it depends on where we get a park.
I know. Let's get to.
Okay.
I'll tell her.
Oh, I would love if you, that is okay with you, to get my big giant shark.
Oh, absolutely. We haven't finished it.
Oh my goodness.
I know. So, as soon as we finish it.
Man, that much sugar than I would have liked.
Really? I think Daniel just kept going through it.
Well, and that also, that I thought about it when you said that. I really like that. That's a good plan. It's very high on it. It's hard to emulate. Some of my favorites in the when I read it. But I mark it specifically like paper. I would say use half of the because
That's what Daniel was wondering. We were both wondering what the little pasta was. In that case,
that's a good part more product. Yeah, which I.
Have a debrief, yes, on Monday, but, but overall, it was great. We wanted to fill the room, we wanted to be a party, we wanted certain people to come.
all that happened for sure.
Yeah, I have to tell you, so, yes. So, an old fellow named John Cookman from Unitarian, he had called the fading star. So he calls me.
Good morning, good morning. Yes, please.
When we found out about. So he.
Good morning. My name is Jill Thompson, and I have the honor of being your worship associate this morning. We welcome everyone here and online to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Roanoke, with a special welcome to those who are joining us for the first time. We hope you stay after the service for coffee in the fellowship hall, and we also hope you have remembered to silence your cell phones. Let's take a second to stand up and connect with everyone watching at home. For those of you online, if you wish to share your joys and concerns during the Lifelines portion of the service, please put them in the chat in the next 15 minutes. We acknowledge with gratitude and reverence that our church resides on land inhabited by the Tutelo and Monacan nations. Our minister is the Reverend Walter LaFleur, and today's sermon is called Day of the Dead. Please join me in reciting our words of welcome. Whoever you are, whomever you love, however you express your identity, whatever your situation in life, whatever your experience of the holy, as you come seeking love, your presence here is a gift. Whether you are filled with sadness or overflowing with joy, needing to be alone with yourself or eager to engage with others, all who welcome all are welcome here. And now our covenant. We commit to supporting each other with respect and direct communication as we work in community to explore spiritual growth and to be a force for good in the world.
Everybody singing, everybody laughing, everybody gone now, hallelujah. Everybody talking, everybody walking, everybody gone now, hallelujah. Everybody singing, everybody laughing, everybody gone now, hallelujah. Everybody talking, everybody walking, everybody gone now, hallelujah. No more suffering, no more fears, as we cross into the light. Cross the river, everyone on down, hallelujah. Gotte, gotte, Roanoke, there is a gotte, holy swamp. Gotte, gotte, Roanoke, there is a gotte, holy swamp. Everybody singing, everybody laughing, everybody gone now, hallelujah. Everybody talking, everybody walking, everybody gone now, hallelujah. Hallelujah. Gotte, gotte, Roanoke, holy swamp. Gotte.
Death is an important ally for appreciating life. Not a morbid preoccupation with death, rather the felt awareness of our finitude as physical beings, an honest recognition of the short time we have to love and to learn on this earth. Death is a friend that helps us to release our clinging to social position and material possessions as a source of ultimate security and meaning. Death is a friend that helps us to release our clinging to social position and material possessions. Those are words from Voluntary Simplicity by Dwayne Elgin. Our chalice lighting words from the same author. He writes, an awareness of death forces us to confront the purpose of meaning in our existence.
Good morning. Am I on? So the light's not coming on. I'll jump back and forth because I'm good at that. So you can turn me on up here. Yeah. Okay. So most of you have probably noticed that there's no chair up here for our children's message and story time. This is an ofrenda, which is Spanish for offering, but it's also an altar. We call our altar for Dia de los Muertos or Dia de Muertos, depending on where you're from, which is the Day of the Dead. We call our altar an ofrenda. And there's specific elements to this altar. So I want to invite up anyone, whether you are little, big, tall, short, I want to invite up anyone who wants to help complete our ofrenda. If you don't mind grabbing that basket. Kevin's going to give me a hand with the jumping back and forth. So in every ofrenda, we have the elements of water, wind, earth, and fire. So water is so that the spirits, when they arrive, can clean themselves because they've been in the land of the dead for an extended period of time. So they can wash off when they get here. And there's a little pitcher of water in there. Yeah, who wants to put this on our ofrenda? Come on up. We also have on the front, we have papel picado, which is, it's punched paper and it's cut out paper, and that's our wind element. And wind, when we see that papel picado, when we see it flutter, it says that the spirits have arrived. We also have food. Actually, 2 folks baked a cake and decorated it this morning. So we're going to put some of those slices of cake. You can go ahead and grab your cake and put it onto our ofrenda. Food is our earth element. Everybody who lives on earth, put some food up there. And that's so that we can nourish these souls that are coming back and visiting us. Della, why don't you find a candle? Is there a candle in there? Why don't you put a candle up there? And that candle is a special candle because on it is a mariposa, which is a butterfly. And butterflies are those souls visiting, especially monarch butterflies. We also have 3 different levels. Our top level is where we put our sacred iconography. So you'll see a cross up there. This is a very Christian tradition, but we also have a chalice that we can put up there. Randall, will you grab that chalice back there? We'll put our religious symbology up there on the top level. And we have calaveras, which are skulls. Skulls aren't scary. Kevin is a perfect example of one of our beautiful calaveras. So we have, who's heard of a sugar skull? We make them out of sugar because sweets are a great thing to have when you've traveled from the world of the dead. Sweets are a great thing to feast on when you get there. And now, I'll transfer in a second. James, thank you so much for your hard work this morning. We also have calacas, like La Catrina, who is our skeleton. Acelia, Malin, Della, why don't you guys come up and find a spot to put all these things? We also have, and we're going to spend some time this morning talking about our alebrijas, which are fantastical animals. Now, the movie Coco would have you believe that they do something that they don't do. So we're going to talk about that this morning with the kids upstairs. So you can ask them what alebrijas are. We also have our familia, which is, some people have already brought in some pictures. I'm going to put them in these little blocks of wood. We do lots of different things that represent our familia on here. Now, I have brought in a picture of my friend Bruce, who passed away on the 13th of October. This is actually from his funeral. It's a prayer card from his funeral. So I'm going to put it here so we can remember him. Because Day of the Dead is a day that we celebrate all these wonderful people who are now our ancestors and people who have gone before us. Just like we heard in that song this morning, everyone gone now across the river. All these folks have crossed that river and they're coming back to visit us on the Day of the Dead. This is a gift from my friend Shelly that she gave me. Every time I see this, I think of Shelly. Shelly passed away about 10 years ago. So I'm going to put this up here. Would somebody like to find a spot for that? Thank you. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, La Catrina's super decorated. And then I have this really cool bookmark that was made when my grandmother got engaged. My grandmother died last year. So I'm going to put that right here. And if you have brought something, feel free to come up during Lifelines and put something on our ofrenda. We're actually going to leave this up until the Day of the Dead, which is, does anybody know what day it is? November 2nd. We're going to leave this up so that these folks can come and visit us. And the last thing we have is Flor de Muerto, which is marigolds. And the scent of the marigolds it guides those spirits back to visit us. So everybody come grab some marigolds from Kevin in the basket and put them on our ofrenda. You can put them on the floor in front. We'll get some real ones too. These are plastic. Wow, she is decked out. So we do all of this to celebrate these people's lives, to celebrate the fact that they are on the other side of the river and they're coming back to visit us this day every year. They'll come back and visit, and we get to say hey to them. We get to feed them. We get to help them bathe. And now we're going to go around. Is anybody wearing a costume other than me and Kevin? We're going to do a parade anyway. Let's go. We'll go right here and then out the door. Sound good? Absolutely.
For our reading, we have two poems this morning. The first is It Is a Miracle, author anonymous. It is a miracle, nothing less than a miracle, that flowers bloom every spring, that living thing begets living thing, that we human beings emerge again and again from ignorance to knowledge, from hopelessness to meaning, from sadness to joy. It is a miracle, nothing less than a miracle. The second is called The Cost by Dorothy N. Moore. Death is not too high a price to pay for having lived. Mountains never die, nor do the seas or rocks or endless sky. Through countless centuries of time they stay, eternal, deathless, yet they never live. If choice there were, I would not hesitate to choose mortality, whatever fate demanded in return for life I'd give, for never to have seen the fertile pains, nor heard the winds, nor felt the warm sun on sands beside the salty sea, nor touched the hands of those I love. Without these, all the gains of timelessness would not be worth one day of living and of loving, come what may.
Day of the Dead is a term we typically associate with this time of the year. This, dare I call it, holiday? A day we dress in attire that is atypical for who we are, atypical for how we live our lives. It's a time of make-believe and seeking treats from those in our neighborhood. Today, we celebrate, or maybe better said, honor, Day of the Dead. In many ways, celebrating those who have died is countercultural. We in this country are pretty horrible when it comes to dealing with death. We don't seem to know how to deal with it. Maybe worse, we too often fail to help the living deal with death, to deal with their grief that comes with death. Do any of you remember the Terry Schiavo case about 20 years ago? It was a big deal, an ugly legal battle over the end of life decision. Terry had a heart attack, which left her comatose with massive brain damage. After a number of months, doctors labeled her as being in a persistent vegetative state. For 2 years, doctors tried various experimental treatments that failed to show any change. Some 8 years after her heart attack, her husband, as her legal guardian, went to court to have her feeding tubes removed. Her parents fought that. From late 90s to early 2000s, 1998 to 2005, the case bounced around the Florida courts. Tubes were removed and reinserted, then removed again. Both the Florida legislature and the United States legislature passed laws to intervene, and the case eventually went to the Supreme Court. It was a national disgrace, a disgrace with powerful political overtones. Sadly, today, all these years later, we're not much better off. We as a nation still have a hard time allowing people to die, even with dignity. There must be billions of dollars each year spent on medical procedures to extend the life of thousands who will soon thereafter, no doubt, die nonetheless. It seems as if we're unwilling to accept that death is the price of life, an unavoidable price to pay. It happens to the best of us. We, in this country of ours, tend to deal with death as if it's a failure on someone's part for a person to die. Survivors often blame themselves with stories of, if only I had gotten them to the doctor sooner. If only I had. Alternately, there's a tendency to blame the doctors, the EMTs, the nurses. It has to be somebody's fault. They died, right? Perhaps, but it's much more likely that death doesn't work according to our logic. It's not controlled by our plans. My father used to say, no one is put on this earth to live forever. Yet, As common as death is, we just don't seem able to deal with this thing called death very well. When the elderly die, it often doesn't come as a surprise, but it may leave us shaken. When someone younger dies, it can be a shock. Our culture tends to assume we will all live to a ripe old age, or at least we should. When a parent faces the death of a child, that may be the hardest of all to accept. Perhaps as that it is as that should be. Such a death doesn't fit the typical sequence of life, so it presents a double whammy. Some of you have heard me say this before. When I was in seminary, or at least talk about this, when I was in seminary, a loss, grief, and bereavement class had a profound impact on me. In fact, the 3 years I was in seminary, that's one of my favorite, most profound courses. For a number of reasons, it stood out for me. It stood out because how much damage we can do when society tries to dictate how one should grieve. It took me quite some time, probably more than a year, to understand why that course was so impactful. It finally occurred to me that the way we as a nation deal with death and dying has much in common with how we deal with race. First, we don't talk about it very much, certainly not in polite company. But more importantly, the majority culture superimposes what's acceptable to be said, what's acceptable to be said publicly. We use euphemisms. We lost John last night, or he's in a better place now, as opposed to he died. It's rare that we as a nation address the issue of race head on. We skirt around it. We speak in hushed tones. We often tend to whitewash the pain of death of a loved one. We're expected not to speak of it very much. Such conversations are often short, as we don't want to deal with raw emotion, a sense of loss. We don't want to impose ourselves on another. Our corporate environment has wholly unreasonable expectations of how people should deal with this thing called death. If the person who dies is a member of your immediate family, you might be allowed 3 days off with pay. That is, if you're lucky. Generally, it's only the large corporations that offer such bereavement time. If it's a cousin, a niece, an uncle, you might be allowed 1 day of paid leave, and no allowance at all if it's just a dear friend. You often have to take personal time off or vacation time to go to the funeral of a dear friend. The expectation is that you will return to work as if nothing happened. You had your time off, after all. Even outside of the work environment, how often have we heard someone say, "You've been moping around. Let it go. It's time to get over it. Time to get on with your life." The time when the world turned more slowly, Women dressed in black for a year. People wore black armbands. These were outward signs of mourning. Women wearing black for a year reflected an historic understanding that the grieving process took an extended period of time. Just because society and the corporate world has decided how long one should grieve, it doesn't mean that it matches our natural grieving process and that we ought to follow it. People grieve as they need to grieve. Some cry more than others. Some don't cry at all. Some go into deep mourning, not wanting to leave the house, while others act as if nothing has changed. Time to move on with your life. Social psychologists have identified a typical grieving sequence and put it with a timeline. But you and I may not be typical. We need to support our friends and family to grieve exactly as they need to grieve. Our work may simply be to hold space for them to be where they are and to process death as they need to process that death. Because we as a society tend to avoid talk about death, we don't know much about the grieving process. We may have experiences that are not at all unusual, but fear saying anything about it for fear that there may be something odd about us. For example, while it may not be the norm, it is not an unusual occurrence for the living to hear the voice of the deceased, to see the deceased in the grocery store or walking down the street. And since it's countercultural, we don't talk about these things very much, so we don't know that this is within the realm of normal. Yes? From the outside looking in, we often don't know what to say to someone who's lost a friend or a loved one. Even the word lost can mask our discomfort in facing the truth of death. Often there are no good words. There are no words to take away or soften the pain, though we often trip all over ourselves trying. Offering words of caring, simply being empathetic, may be all one can say or do, and it may be the most loving thing to do. I've heard newscasters and others talk about finding closure after someone's death, as if there is a point at which you can put the experience of death in a box, as if there is a point at which you can put the experience of death at a distance from us in the past and close the top, the box. There is no such thing as closure. There is no such thing as closure. It's completely made up, that notion. It's kind of like a required happy ending to a movie. Yeah, we have now closure. We can move on. As long as the living has an awareness of someone who has died, there is no closure, even as there is a different relationship. Death has been described as a hole in the fabric of life, like a hole in your favorite sweater. It can't be repaired, but you can't throw it away either, because it represents so many memories. It carries import. It means so much. So you learn to live with the hole in the fabric of your life, a hole that does not go away. I want to say two more things before I close. We who work intimately with those who are grieving, encourage people to focus on memories, focus on the stories that include the deceased, both the good and the bad. Ultimately, the grieving process is about finding a new homeostasis, learning to live with the hole in the fabric of our lives, a new normal. And we who interact with someone who has had a friend or loved one die, we all too often fear mentioning the fact of the death. We do this with good intentions, not wanting to cause pain, to open an old wound, or more likely, we do it because we're uncomfortable with the very notion of death and in discomfort with talking about it. But too often, we do a disservice, remaining silent about someone who has died may give the impression that their death did not matter, that they are gone and now forgotten. Take the risk of remembering the person who has died. Let our friends and colleagues know we have not forgotten the someone who was important, either in our own or another's life. Someone who's made a mark in our memory. I want to take this time to offer us each and all an opportunity to remember one who's gone before. If there's someone on your heart this morning that you remember, I'd like to invite you to come up, take a candle, and put it in the sand as a way of remembering someone who has meaning for you. Let us carry I want to share one of my favorite poems with you by that famous poet, Anonymous. In our own tone and key, each life we touch reflects a note that forms the melody. We choose the theme and chorus of the song to bear our name, and each will have a special sound. No two can be the same. So when someone we love departs, in memory we find their song plays on within the hearts of those they leave behind. It is good that we've gathered to share with one another the full extent of life from its beginning to its ending. And we're fortunate to share it with each other.
I'm Jane Harrison from the Caring Committee, and I'm here to represent Lifelines. And this is a chance to share your joys and your concerns with the rest of the congregation. If you have a joy or a concern you wish to share, you can write it in the Lifelines book, which is on the pulpit. On Sunday mornings, the rest of the week, it's kept in the little alcove next to the badges. You can also let somebody from the Caring Committee know. You can let the church secretary know, and we will share our joys and concerns. We have no joys and concerns this morning, and everybody has come up and used a candle. You wish to? There's in the book. Oh, there is? I didn't see it earlier. Okay. Oh, here it is. Sorry. I didn't see it earlier. Kate and Nathan Jones celebrate 15 years of marriage on the 25th. Oh, that's good news. This is, unfortunately, it was the same day they said goodbye to their beloved cat. Oh. And let's see, cat known as Jedi? Okay. Gently. Okay. Okay. Yeah, that breaks my heart. But if you would like to light a candle then, and for a joy or concern in your heart, please come forward and do so now.
We're going to see if we have any additional candles.
Okay. We had plenty.
Our prayer this morning are the words from Psalm of Lament, written by Anne Weems, and it's entitled Lament, Psalm number 6. Oh God, why do you leave me face down in my memories? Eyes wide open, every nerve exposed. Why do you leave me all alone in the house of memories? Remembering the smile, the voice, the whistle, the love. Take me from here, O God. Please be merciful. Blot out the memories, my God. And will you not abandon me? Amen. Do we have announcements? We've just.
There's only one announcement today. It's also in your bulletin that there's a climate and clean energy rally today on the corner of our street. It's such a beautiful day. Everyone is welcome. Please join them there. There are other announcements in our monthly email newsletter, and if you're not getting that, please email admin@uuroanoke.org to get on the list. Thank you.
Takes away the pain of my soul, and takes away the pain of my soul. And I was sinking down, sinking down, sinking down. When I was sinking down, sinking down. When I was sinking down beneath my sorrow's crown, and gathered round, oh my soul, and stood together round, oh my soul. To love and to all friends, I will sing, I will sing. To love and to all friends, I will sing. To love and to all friends, through pain and sorrow, with thanks unto the end, I will sing, I will sing. With thanks unto the end, I will sing.
Go into this week knowing you're not alone. Go knowing that as a part of this faith community, we travel with you. Go into your week in peace.
You're still good.
Auction videos?
Yeah.
I think you gotta tell them. You start your music player. Okay, sorry. I had no idea that was going on.
Okay, yeah, great. I think that would be fine. That would be great. And then you just have to, we will bring something.
Thank